After 8 years in power, how much has the Government of Canada given in contracts to McKinsey? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we understand how important it is for Canadians to have a good deal, so that is the reason for which I've asked the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister for Public Services and the President of the Treasury Board to follow up on these contracts to make sure that all rules have been followed and all parameters have been respected, and to make sure that they are open and transparent with committees on what has been done and how it was done. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. needs a review. Can't he just ask how much his own government spent on contracts to this company? I mean, we're talking at least $120 million. I asked him this question 5 times the last time he was in this House. He was unable to answer. Perhaps the number is too high to count, but this is a company that's engulfed in scandals in France, that helped kill people in the United States and possibly in Canada through the opioid crisis, and helped foreign governments suppress their own people. Surely the Prime Minister would know how much he paid this company after 8 years. How much?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
As these contracts were, for the large part, signed and negotiated by the public service, it's important that we actually be able to have clarity on the answers, which is why I've asked the Minister of Public Services and the President of the Treasury Board to look in carefully to make sure that Canadians did get value for money and that all the rules and procedures were appropriately followed. The ministers, of course, will be sharing that information with committees and with all parliamentarians. It's important that Canadians see exactly how government is investing their money.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He says that the public servants recruited McKinsey and its managing director, Dominic Barton. Well, that's not what he said before. And I quote, "I met the leaders of major corporations from around the world, and one thing they all had in common. They all knew Dominic. I came to appreciate, maybe even envy, Dominic's contact list. So I recruited him, far from having public servants do it. In fact, public servants say they have no idea what McKinsey actually did for all this money. So given that he recruited this company, how much did he pay them?"
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over our time in office, I have been touched by seeing how many Canadians of extraordinary backgrounds have put their hands up and offered to serve their country, to contribute to Canadian success and contribute to governments. And Dominic Barton has certainly served his country in many ways, including by being an outstanding ambassador to China. In regards to contracts assigned to McKinsey by the public service, as I said, we are following up on how those contracts were chosen, allocated, and fulfilled.
Can I continue? I just want to remind the honourable members to look at their whips and follow their instructions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He always blames everybody else for his actions. After 8 years in government, he never takes responsibility. So now he's blaming the public servants for paying over $120 million to his friends at McKinsey. But here's what the public servants told the media. We had a few presentations on very generic, completely vapid stuff. There were nice colors, nice presentations, and they said they would revolutionize everything. But in the end, we have no idea what they did. Well, what they did is get over $120 million. We still don't know exactly how much. So what was the total, Mr. Prime Minister?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, the ministers are appropriately looking into that to make sure all rules are followed. But, Mr. Speaker, as we move forward, we're focused on Canadians right now and the need to support Canadians who are going through a really difficult time, whether it's grocery prices, whether it's gas, whether it's paying their rents. That's why we've stepped up with direct supports for Canadians. We'll continue to. And we certainly hope that Conservatives, putting aside their opposition to more support for Canadians who are renting or more support so people can send their kids to the dentist, will step up and support on childcare, on disability, and on other investments that support Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, after 8 years in power, rents have doubled from $1,000 to $2,000. Monthly mortgage payments have doubled from $1,500 to well over $3,000. 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals, and half of Canadians are cutting groceries because of the food price inflation that his carbon tax has caused. And where's the money going? $15 billion for high-priced consultants like McKinsey. Now, when he hired McKinsey, he announced it was for $1 a year, up to at least $120 million a year. How do you explain that? Is it just inflation?
I just want to remind the honourable members to place their questions through the Speaker, not to the Speaker, and you can't do indirectly what you can't do directly. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative Party focuses on schoolyard taunts, we're going to stay focused on being there for Canadians. We've stepped up with investments that have helped Canadians significantly through this difficult time. We know people are facing tough times, and that's why we continue to step up with a doubling of the GST credit over 6 months, with moving forward on support for low-income renters, and so that all families can send their kids to the dentist. Unfortunately and inexplicably, despite all his rhetoric, the Leader of the Opposition stood against those last 2 measures. We are hoping that they are going to see that investing and supporting Canadians, not abandoning the middle class, is what we need from them.